It's a hot day in Kansas. It's a good day for a review. Today we're looking at the Talist 234. Look familiar? Another day, another frame. Today we're taking a look at the Talist 234. Now this may seem like a little bit of a familiar name, like Talistmachine, which is actually where the name is derived. The Talistmachine does a lot of innovation and made some frames, and those frames were immediately cloned by Banggood and for sale out there for about a third the price. So, of course they didn't like it, and so they named their latest quad the Banggood, which actually sells for, I don't know, 70 bucks, something like that, 70, 80 bucks. And they called it the Banggood because it was getting cloned by Banggood. So Banggood took that Banggood machine and called it the Talistmachine 234. This runs 5-inch props. It's also available to run 6-inch and 7-inch props. But today we're going to take a look at this one and see how it looks. So here are all the pieces laid out. The arms are massively thick. Best to try to avoid having those getting broken. Also, it comes with the front piece to connect the two front arms together, and this is especially important because it also helps support the front camera holder up on the front. This is the 3D printed piece. This is actually printed out of TPU. It's not super soft TPU, but it's definitely TPU. It's just a little bit harder there. It can twist a little bit, so anyway, yeah, it is TPU. And if you don't like this one, they have 3D printable ones, I think, out on Thingiverse, and I'll see if I can find a link to it. But here's all the pieces. It comes with the little grommet to help hold your power wires coming up over top the frame. So I'll go ahead and start putting this together, and we'll get some measurements off of it. On this frame, the bottom plate's about 3 millimeters, and these arms are 5 millimeters. And these are about 14 millimeter screws going up through the frame, and that leaves plenty for these spacers to attach onto. Now, one kind of cool thing about these arms is that if you're in the field, you can loosen this one up a little bit and then pull this first screw out right here, and then the arm slides off because of the groove that's in there. You can slide the next arm back in place, tighten that up a little bit, and then put the screw back in, and you're ready to go. And you didn't have to take your whole frame apart to replace an arm. Just, basically just loosen up one screw and take one screw out, and then there it is, ready to go back together. So here's the top plate, and the TPU piece is installed there, and it uses Phillips head screws to hold the plates to it. And it's kind of back here to act as an anti-vibration thing from the motors getting to the camera, although they could come in right in through the front. But it's also for when it takes direct impacts. Hopefully that TPU will flex a little bit and take some of the impact and hopefully just absorb it instead of pass it on through the rest of the frame. Also, it has these 3 little side cuts here, which those are so you can put your camera on any of those different pieces and then turn the angle of it. Now the idea would be you keep your lens back behind the pieces here, so that way it gives a little bit better protection. If you hit something, it's not going to hit your camera lens directly. Instead, these side plates would take all the impact from that and hopefully save your camera, because it would be a lot cheaper to replace a side piece than your camera. So here's the Talistmachine 234 fully assembled. Now, the designers on this over at Talistmachine, they did an awesome job. I mean, this front piece here is a great idea, and the only reason that it works is because they took the camera and moved it up here to the front so that it makes it look more cool instead of goofy, because having this up here normally with the camera back here would just be, I don't know, weird, and that's been tried before. But I think that this piece up here, when you hit something, it's going to take a lot of that stress and pass it back here to the arms, and maybe not so much into the middle, because this is, it's sliding on to the side plates forward. So when it hits this way, it's just gonna like that and slide off. So most of the impact's gonna be passed over to the arms instead of up to your camera body there. On the underside, it does have the 2 sets of holes here, one for the 36 millimeter boards and one for the 20 millimeter boards, so you can use either size that you want. Back here in the back, it has the space for the DJI FPV system. It has straps back here, or slots for a battery strap to hold a long battery on. You put the other set of another battery strap around the middle if you wanted to. And down here on the bottom, it has extra holes where you can zip tie stuff down to the bottom if you're not using the DJI files FPV system. Also, there is a second set of holes back here for another 36 or 20 millimeter flight board, so you could have one up here in the front and one back here in the back if you wanted to also. So here's the frame with no battery strap, just the frame itself. Comes in about 146 grams, and that's a pretty heavy weight, but it's not too bad for a FPV freestyle. It does make a little bit heavy frame for racing. Most of their lighter frames are going to be like about 100 grams or even down to near 80 and maybe even below that. But this is going to be, this is not a FPV racing frame, although you could race it just as easily if you wanted to. It's going to be a little bit heavier built and be able to withstand crashes a little bit better. Let's get some measurements off of this frame. The bottom plate is about 3 millimeters. The top plate's about 2 millimeters. The arm's about 5. The front support's about 5 millimeters. The side plates are about 3. And the space inside here for your actually building area is about 22. So you have quite a bit of space in there. That's actually kind of nice. So from center motor to the opposing center motor is 234, just like it's advertised. Up here on the top, it has this little rubber grommet. Now this reminds me of the VooDoo Quads back a long time ago, back in the day. VooDoo Quads put these on here to help keep the motor wires, or the power wires, out of the way of the motors. And it was very effective then, and it's probably going to be just as effective now. So here's a 4S 1300 battery, and you'd put it on this way. The power wire would come up and connect into here, and that doesn't look too bad size-wise on this frame. That's just, like I said, it's a 4S 1300. And then I also have a 5S. This is a 1350, and it's going to sit on this frame also pretty nicely. It doesn't look like it with the battery strap on there. It's going to hold it down just fine. It shouldn't have, I don't think it'll have any problems holding it down. But yeah. Anyway, I thought it was really cool to see someone else use this little grommet idea, because like I said, back in the day I flew VooDoo Quads frames and they had that, and the VooDoo Quads was awesome, and I wish they were still around, but they're not. So this is the Talistmachine 234. Overall, this is a pretty awesome quad, and kudos to the Talistmachine company for designing it and producing it. And you know, it's too bad that this kind of stuff gets cloned easily by companies overseas. Like this one includes the file, so you can come in here and you can file down your edges a little bit, because none of these are really smooth. And actually, that really helped right there. So, but they give you a file, you know, whereas the Talistmachine one is probably a lot more well-rounded and stuff. Now, I'm not always a big fan of clones being made immediately. I think just like generic drugs and stuff like that, you know, you got to give the original company a little bit of time to make money off of this so they can pay their employees and whatnot. But this one comes in about the third of the cost of the original, which tells me a lot of money that they're charging is going back into R&D, which is good for them, and it's also good for their employees, and it's also good for the hobby. So would I recommend that you buy this? Well, you know, I would always recommend that you buy the original frame from the original makers like Talistmachines. However, if that's not even an option, where you don't have money to spend $75 on a good frame, then these actually provide a decent option where you can get into the hobby a little bit cheaper and be able to save a little bit of money to put somewhere else. But when you talk to your friends, tell them to buy the original, and then you can explain why you bought the clone one if you want to. Anyway, if you have any questions about this or comments, or just wanted to belittle me about buying clones, that's fine also. Leave them down in the comments, and I will try to answer them as best I can. And as always, thanks for watching.
Stuck on quads, I've got my confidence so high that I feel like I just can't crash.